John Lusky of Lusk Archery Adventures. Serious testing, successful hunting. Today I'm going to be testing another beast. I've been loving the beast broadheads, okay? I've used all of them, I think, all their different models in the field on hog hunts just to test them out. And man, I've had a blast doing that. They've been incredibly effective. And overall, I've been so impressed with the beast broadheads that I reached out to them and asked them if they'd give me a discount code. And they did. So if you use Lusk10 anytime you order, then you get 10% off any beast broadheads. And that includes the one I'm going to test today, which is the titanium 100 grain. 100 grain titanium. They had a previous 100 grain, but it had an aluminum ferrule. This is the titanium ferrule 100 grain. I've already used it in the field, and it's been like incredibly successful with hogs, but now I'm finally going to do an official test on it, and I've gotten a lot of requests to do this. I thought about doing it at the start of next year, but so many people have been requesting for me to test it. I thought I'd go ahead and do that. So for the test, I'm going to be using my regimen for 2025. And for a detailed description of that, please check out the video that I posted earlier this year called 2025 Broadhead Test Process, and it'll walk you through that. I'm going to be using for most of the shooting my Elite Carbon Eon, and then for the flight testing, I'm going to be using my Killer Instinct LogiX 435 crossbow. For all the shooting, I'm using Bishop archery, arrows, and bolts. Okay, let's zoom on in here, take a good look at this beast, Titanium 100, go through all the design features and specifications, and then put this bad boy to the test. Here's a good look at the 100 grain titanium beast. And man, there's a lot to like about this broadhead. Really, when you take it out of the package, like I've said of a few other broadheads, it just screams quality. You just feel the quality of craftsmanship and materials. Really love that about the beast broadheads. This one is particularly cool looking with that little bitty tip right there in the front. Okay, let's start with the materials, and then we'll get to that tip. First of all, the ferrule is titanium, as I've mentioned there. And then the tip is a hardened 400 series steel tip, so it's separate from the titanium ferrule. They decided to do that just to make them extra strong. And this one is an extra small tip to save weight, as well as just to aid in penetration. Now the blades are stainless steel as well, and they're Lutz German blades, and they're brought to a Rockwell hardness of 58 to 60, which is extremely hard, but they say they can get away with it because of the extra proprietary heat cryogenic process that they use to harden them to that, where they're not brittle. Sometimes they're hardened in such a way they get to that hardness, but then they're super brittle, and you see it in the chatter or you see it in the blades fracturing. But that's not the case with these, and they spent a lot of money on the blades to get them that hard while making them not brittle like that through that hardening process, and that's just to help them be extra sharp and hold an edge extra well. And I'm not sure how these are going to come out, but the other beasts I've tested have been by far, and I mean by far, the sharpest blades and the best edge retaining blades that I've ever tested. So it's been really impressive to see that. They've not skimped on blades, let me tell you that. So the thickness of the blades is 0.035 inches. In the closed position, this is the diameter is 0.66 inches, so pretty tight overall profile, and short as well. It extends beyond the end of the arrow 1.57 inches, so just about 1.5 inches. Now, the way it works is there's no O-ring, there's no retention collar or anything like that. These deployment arms impact a medium, so this little tip penetrates in really easily, and then these deployment arms hit that medium like the hide, and then that forces them back and causes the blades to deploy. I got to be careful there, because they deploy with a spring. They have a spring-loaded deployment system, and that deploys them with a 22-pound force. Okay, it only takes 1.3 pounds to deploy them, but then the spring has 22 pounds of pressure built up, so they really spring forward and have quite an impact there. They deploy at 940 miles per hour. I almost said feet per second. Once before I made a mistake, it said feet per second, but they deploy at 940 miles per hour, which is faster than the sound barrier. And you can look up why they don't make a sonic boom, because they're attached to something else, and you can look up the physics reason for that. I had to look it up. I'm wondering, well, if that's true, how come it doesn't make a sonic boom? But anyway, I learned something from the process. I can't test if they really deploy at 940 miles per hour, and I'm not really going to know because, we're not going to know because they're slowed down by them hitting a medium and so forth. So, but the total speed is supposed to be 940 miles per hour in a vacuum in a perfect world. And that spring, it serves two purposes. One, it helps the blades to open in a really powerful, fast way. And then two, it allows there to be a bit of compression. So these blades can compress. And I got to be really careful because they're really sharp. They can compress. Now, it's not easy to compress them, okay, but it takes, again, 22 pounds, but they can compress. And what that does is, if they hit a really hard medium, say, here's this big bone, boom, they hit the bone, that can force them back, and they can compress individually, but it can force them back, close just a little bit, and then, boom, that 22 pounds, they're under tension, boom, it springs forward as soon as they've passed that heavy bone, that object, whatever it is. So that will aid in penetration. That hard medium ribs will allow some compression, but then the extreme tension of the spring will open them back up quickly, and you'll regain that full cutting diameter. So sometimes they could compress so much that you're getting a smaller cut, but that's the trade-off. You're getting deeper penetration because of it, and it's going to spring back really quickly. So if you get a smaller cut, it's not going to be for very long. I will tell you, in the multiple animals I've taken with the beasts now, every one of them have had a really nice entrance hole. So that has not been an issue with them compressing too small on me. They've been quite lethal. Now, unfortunately, you can't replace the blades. There's just too much going on internally, and they decided to not make the blades replaceable, at least at this time. But the blades are so sharp, and their edge retention is so good, they say you can reuse one broadhead 5 or 6 times, 5 or 6 different animals, and they have multiple people writing in saying that's exactly what they've done. I've done it with 2 animals, and man, they're still going strong. Like when I do the edge retention test, after that the blades are dulled a bit, and I do the edge retention test, they're still sharper than pretty much every other broadhead on the market. So they are down for multiple uses like that out of multiple animals. But if you did want to resharpen them, you can use a Stay Sharp guide called The Answer. That's Stay Sharp Guide's catch-all blade sharpener. The Answer will work well on this. Now, the price for a pack of 3 comes out to $28.33 a head, but you can use my discount code LUSK10, LUSK10, and save 10% on that, and that can really make a difference. So really eager to put yet another model of beast to the test and see how it performs. The beast got the 10 ring. It only took 80 grams of force to cut through the wire, which is a 10 on a 10-point scale, plus a proportional bonus of 1.2 for being under the threshold of 200, and it makes these blades the sharpest broadheads I've ever tested. It penetrated 7.5 inches. And you can see the blades are compressed inside the gel, so they're going to get a deduction for not having to cut as much of that medium as they penetrate. Now I want to show you the entrance hole is its full 2 inches of cut. But again, the blade shrunk by the time they hit the gel. So I'm going to do a further, more exploratory opening test in a bit. It took an additional 24 grams of force to cut through the wire, which is a 9.52 on a 10-point scale. And they're going to get an additional bonus of 2 points for both the sharpness and the edge retention being under the threshold of 200. Here's the entrance hole, and it got over its full cutting diameter of 2 inches. And here you can see the blades remained fully open throughout the entire penetration in the gel. Here you can see the transition from the leather to the gel. The cutting diameter remained the same. And finally, you see the entire block of gel and the blades being consistently deployed throughout the entire penetration. So why did they stay compressed in the gel in penetration test 1? It's because there's a little bit of a gap between the MDF and the gel, and the blades shrink down at that point because of a lack of pressure, and then the gel constricts the blades, unlike most mediums, and just keeps them compressed and doesn't allow them to expand. But as you can see from the test that I just did, if they're opened prior to going into the gel, like from the hide, then they just remain open through the gel. The gel itself does not compress them. I hope that makes sense. It penetrated through 56 layers, which is an 8 on a 10-point scale. The head's in excellent condition after the 3 shots to the MDF. The only damage is those little nicks in the blades that happen when the blades themselves deploy so fast that they hit against the ferrule. And here it is after the 2 shots through the steel plate. And you can see the blades held together very well. Everything is intact. The broadhead stayed together, didn't lose a blade. There's a little bit of edge chatter on the blade, so they get penalized a little bit for that, but otherwise in fantastic shape. And then you can see the holes. It made 2 nice holes through the steel plate. Here it is after all the durability testing, and as you saw in the MDF, it held together perfectly well, just got a little indentation. That's what happens when the blades impact the ferrule there. And then through the steel plate, it held together very well also. 2 shots through the steel plate, and the only damage was a little bit of edge chatter. Went ahead and shot it into the center block, and man, it penetrated really deeply into the center block. I mean, like to there. It was very impressive, and no signs of damage, really. I mean, maybe a little bit of a bend to that tip. Yeah, you can see it. I'm just looking with the naked eye versus the expanded view, the magnified view that all of you are going to see once I edit it, but a little bit of a bend there. But man, really impressive durability here, especially for a mechanical, but really for any broadhead. So what'd you think? Man, another winner of a beast broadhead. I've loved all of these models, and I really like this one as well. I like that titanium ferrule that's not very vented. It's extra durable. I love that little bitty tip, and I love these razor sharp curved blades, and just so much about these broadheads. They've worked so well for me in the field. I've never had a problem with them opening or staying open or anything like that. They've always made fantastic holes in the hide as well as in the carcass of animals that I've taken, and I look forward to doing that a lot more with them in the future. But hey, you check out the score sheet and see how they performed in the areas that matter to you the most, and see if they might be a good fit for you. And stay tuned for the overall score sheet that I'm going to post here in a minute, as well as the corresponding Lusk grade. And also stay tuned for a list of all the discount codes that I can offer like the Beast. Again, Lusk 10 saves you 10%, but there's many others as well just to help you save some money. Hey, thanks for tuning in. Look forward to seeing you next time.